Coffee is a big part of my day. Not only does it help me get through the morning, but I just really love the taste of good quality beans. Trade is a subscription service that brings great coffee from indie roasters all over the country right to your door. Tell Trade what you typically like, whether it's espresso or single origins or even decaf, even how you like to make your coffee, and they will recommend the right beans for you. Or you can just choose from over 450 different coffees. Then you select how often you'd like the coffee delivered to you. Shipping is always free, by the way. And if you need to skip a week or so, just do that. You can do it. No charge at all. Then pick back up when you're ready to get beans delivered to your door again. Go to unitedwedrink.com/trade to get started with Trade today and start getting some of the best coffees in the country delivered to your door. That's unitedwedrink.com/trade. The opinions and statements in this podcast do not represent those of the host's employers, co-workers, family, or imaginary friends. Now enjoy the show.
Happy hour? More like amateur hour. Welcome to United We Drink.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the United We Drink podcast right here on unitedwedrink.com, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever fine podcasts are found. My name is Mike Urevich, and I am happy to be joined by both of our co-hosts here. I almost said little co-hosts, but that I don't know why I wanted to say that, but
patronizing.
Yeah.
Look at our little co-hosts over here. They think they're people.
Oh, I'm the main host. I'm just hanging out with the little guys. Yeah, I get it. Dick.
Both Kevin and Tim are here today. We missed Tim on the last episode, but really happy to have you back.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys covering for me. I know it was uber short notice, and that's super not fair of me. But Mike, you gotta quit being honest with the listeners, because that sounded like a very much complete episode. Like, it did not look like it did not feel like it was pulled out of your ass whatsoever in any way, shape, or form.
Or I need to keep doing that, because then it makes it look like I'm good at what I do and I can work on the fly.
Oh no, I was giving Kevin credit. Don't.
Oh, okay.
Tim's the first person to ever do that. This was my fawn song, guys. I'm out. Go out on a high note.
Gentlemen, we have a really good topic to talk about today, but before we do that, let's talk about what we're drinking tonight. Kevin?
So I'm starting off with a St. Bernardus Extra 4, which is their single, which is just nice and clean and absolutely delicious. It's actually less Belgian-y than I expected. I've had this beer before, but it's been a long time. It does not have a strong ester or phenol flavor profile. It's just really nice and clean. It's good beer, but the main event, I've actually got a whole bag of beers because this is going to be a fun episode and I have to get really hammered. But I've got a Smutty Nose Robust Porter. I found a 6-pack of this a few weeks ago. It's a beer that I'm doing on Old Favorite Friday here coming up soon.
And it's in code?
It's in code. It's spectacular. This beer is so good. So I've already drank it. I've already enjoyed a couple. And I mean, I'm so happy with this beer and I'm so it's at Total Wine and More. I'm hoping that I can go back and pick some more up and that it's going to stay in stock because, I mean, Robust Porter, thank you. I would like some more, please.
If you keep on going there and buying it all out of stock, they'll keep on bringing it in. You could single-handedly keep that beer alive in the state of Florida. I believe in you, Kevin.
You know that's not true. You absolutely know that the buying public has absolutely no influence on what beers succeed and what beers do not succeed. It's more about where the sales rep puts it and how the merchandisers hide the beer in the back shelf if they don't want it to move.
This is very true. especially in a place where, yeah, the distributors and the supplier reps are the ones who stock the shelves, not the actual store.
Word.
Tim.
I am drinking a Witty Wizard Hefeweizen IPA. I'm kidding, obviously, guys. If you
I was going to say, is there
No,
a brand
no,
that's
no.
like Kevin?
Who's stealing my IP? I do that to other people. That's how this works. Have
No,
you seen my new Wu-Tang shirt? Go ahead.
I have indeed local brewery here. Their old breed. It's a bourbon barrel aged barley wine. So this could get fun.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's very nice and tasty. Obviously, caramel, vanilla, oak, all those things you expect out of a bourbon barrel aged barley wine. But I like it because I've been spending so much time in the spirits world that I have kind of missed beer, and this is kind of a good bridge between spirits and beer.
Oh, absolutely. Before I say what I'm having, I wanted to share a beer that I had over the weekend that I know Kevin's absolutely going to do backflips over. I had a beer from Boulevard called, Plaid Habit, a double brown ale aged in Canadian whiskey barrels. And oh my God, it was so good. Like so complex, so delicious. Like no adjuncts in it at all. Just a double brown ale in whiskey barrels. It was so good.
Okay, I want to drink that beer badly. And also, Plaid Habit. That's genius. How has that not been taken before?
I don't know.
It's just like last week with the Magic IPA. Where are these genius ideas? Just they've been hiding for years in plain sight for people to grab them and run with them. And I have a hard time naming beers. There's so many on the table.
We literally at Badger Hill we literally used random word generators on a website because we're like all beer names are taken. Just any two random words together are going to be just as good, and that's kind of where I feel like Plaid Habit came up. Like it's just two random words together. Like we were gonna name a beer Blast Eagle because that's what the two word random generator came up with.
Perfect. Just put an American flag on there, and you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You have a tank, an eagle, and an American flag, and you've got Blast Eagle, baby.
Well, didn't Badger Hill have a beer called Tim's Not Here, Man?
They did. Yeah. After I left, it was obviously a Cheech and Chong joke, but also just because people would ask about me. I mean, I named a beer. I have call back to last week. A Hefeweizen called "There's Always Money in the Banana Stand."
I wanted to name a Hefeweizen that too at one point, and then I saw there were like 5 of them already.
Well, when I did it, it was not something that was already out there. I like to pretend like I was the one that was the first because I looked it up on Untapped at the time, and we all know how reliable that is. Yeah.
How much is a frozen banana? $10?
That was literally like our first in like our brewer series, and so like I got my own can with my name on the side, and I had it said like banana esters and whatever something lined the walls of this sturdy Hefeweizen.
You should have used just a touch of smoked malt in
I
there.
should have.
So that it is a burnt down banana stand.
Yeah, that would have been great. Yeah.
You're welcome, someone out there.
Yeah.
I'm having a big boy of Cosmic Little Thing from Sierra Nevada.
You and your little things.
I like the little things. I like big cans of little things. I think we talked about this.
Are we not doing phrasing anymore? Anyway.
I think I mentioned this on the last episode, how Publix, our local grocer, big grocer down here, was putting a lot of single cans in on the most recent reset, and I went in there with the intent first, actually, the intention of grabbing a juicy bear hug from Goose Island. Friend of the show, Pete Anderson over at Goose Island, told me that it is a new offering that they had and really would like to see what I thought of it. Which I had seen there before, but they were sold out. All of the beer was like really scarce today for some reason. I don't know what the ordering day was, but I didn't see it. It was out of stock. Tropic Force, that has become my new favorite Voodoo Ranger Force beer, was out of stock. So I was like, all right, let's go with this Cosmic Little thing. And it's, for a hazy IPA, pretty malty. And it is very much encoded. It's only 1 month old. So, but it's a tasty beer. It's tastes like a good double IPA to me.
Sounds like it's up my alley. I am one of the rare people that likes a malty IPA. Even though Ralph tells me every day that we talk about beer, he's like, I'm not putting caramel malt in your goddamn IPAs. I will burn this brewery to the ground if you make me put caramel malt in a freaking IPA. But I still like a little caramel malt in them.
I was gonna say, Badger Hill's bestseller to this day, I think one of my top 5 beers is Trader IPA, which has a little bit of caramel malt in there. It also reminded me of so opening day, right? Came here not too long ago, and I used to go with actually the current head brewer of Unmapped. We used to go to the Twins home opener every year, and we went. This was, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago. We went out to the home opener, and we went out to a bar beforehand, and Celebration was on tap, and we were like, "How the hell is Celebration still on tap at this bar?" Right, and that's a malty IPA, right? It still tasted amazing opening day, right? Like way out of season on tap. Celebration should not have been still on tap. It was still really. I mean, obviously, let's not pretend like we don't know who made it and how they understand how to keep DO under control, but still,
yeah,
that was an amazing beer on April whatever that year.
That is still probably, by all accounts, an out of code beer, even by their standards.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's a couple weeks ago. I went to my local farmers market on Saturday morning, and they have a little bar set up there, like a trailer with you can get tiki drinks and canned beers, and they had Celebration on there. I'm like, oh God, I'm never ready to drink beer at 9:30 in the morning at my farmer's market. But I just walking by that, I'm like, oh fuck, that can't be good that is there in April.
So
yeah, but I gotta tell you, like I was skeptical, and Derek ordered it, and I was like, oh.
But draft might be in better shape than a can would be at this point.
Yeah,
that's true.
Well, I know we have to get into our topic, but what you just said just sparked a thought in me. I went to see our Mike and I's friend Ryan Panucci perform stand up in Boca a week or so ago, and it's a small little club, and they've just got like some packaged beer there, and it said Sam Seasonal. So I'm like wondering what seasonal draft they have. Which one do they have right now? No, it wasn't a draft. It was packaged that they probably bought from like the mixed 12 packs, and I look down and I see Old Fezziwig. And I'm like, I will take that Old Fezziwig right now. Give me Fezziwig. There was no thought in my brain that in the middle of April I'm going to have one of those. So thank you very much for the fact that you went to Publix, bought a bunch of beer that you will sell at your comedy club, and nobody got that. And I drank it, and I was a very, very happy man. I love me some Fezziwig. Awesome.
To be honest, Kevin, they could have bought that through Distro bought a variety pack back in the season, but I might be giving them way too much.
They could have gotten it from Distro right now. I mean, I had Distro that was selling beers that I only found out. I had a friend once send me a picture of him drinking a Badger Hill beer at a beer festival down in Rochester, right? And we didn't make it down to Rochester a whole lot, and so that distro didn't get a whole lot of attention. But I was like, dude, we discontinued that brand. And I reached out to the sales rep. He's like, yeah, but they still found some, so they took it to the fest. I'm like, come on, man. We're not even trying to sell an old brand. He's like, what? We needed to get rid of it. And I'm like, but it's like 6 months old. And we discontinued it like 4 months ago. So can that maybe not be our face at the festival? But again, my friend didn't know it was old or bad or anything like that. So either we're really good at what we do, or the general consumer doesn't have any clue. I'm gonna pretend like it's the former when I know it's the latter.
You know,
we both said the exact same thing. Mike, please, you are the one that runs this thing, so you go say
at my first brewery, we would order stuff from time to time from our distributor for like guest taps, especially like cider. We would get sodas through them. Every once in a while, I would order a case of beer for myself through the distro. We'd get it through the business. They'd pay for it, and then I'd pay my boss for that like case of beer. I don't know exactly how kosher that was at the time, but I did it. One day, our sales rep was like, "Hey, I don't know if this is something that you guys would be interested in, but we found about 50 cases of Bourbon County barley wine." And this was at the time, probably about 8 months after the beer was released.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. And they're like, we're doing a big sale on it to get it out of here. It's $25 for a case. And I was like, 24 bottles?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. I'm like, I will take one.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, cool. So me and a friend ended up splitting a case of Bourbon County barley wine from that year. And I think only about like a couple years ago, I finally had the last bottle of it. And that was one of the best like $25 I ever spent.
At those prices, you just buy as many cases as possible and just go sit on a street corner in a busy city and go, this is high alcohol, $2. And then you're printing money.
All right. So done talking about out of code beers, beers distributors lost and all of that. Let's talk about pay. This topic has been something that we have wanted to talk about on the show for a long time, but haven't really had a good way of talking about it. I think a lot of it was, for a while it was just Kevin and I, and I feel like having two people talk about that could end up being just two people yelling at one another.
Especially you and me.
Yes, especially me. But having Tim on and being a veteran of this industry and being in a different area than us can offer a different insight, I think, into this, because pay is probably one of the biggest things that comes up with people who have worked in this industry for a while. Is, for the most part, pay isn't very good and work is very hard. And discuss. I really don't know how to breach this because it seems on the surface like one of those things we shall not talk about, but here we are doing it. So I don't really know what is the good jumping off point for this. Tim, how about you? You were a very passionate one about wanting to do this topic and really getting it forward.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like I need to. Although, Kevin, were you about to say something? I don't want to cut you off.
No, I just wanted to say, Mike, you're also downplaying the fact that when I joined this podcast, it was me, you, and Joel. And you know who signed Joel's paycheck? Me.
Yeah.
So that would have been a very uncomfortable conversation. I don't know that he would have felt comfortable saying everything he wanted to say about pay. So, we had discussed this before. I just want to make sure we threw that out there because I think it's also important. Like, we have 3 different parties from 3 different breweries and in different positions. And I think it makes it a more meaningful and a more realistic conversation. But then I'll yield the floor to the respected gentleman from Minnesota.
No, it is something where I want to talk because I think it's been an elephant in the room, so to speak, for not just this podcast, but just in general as we talk about the industry, and I think why it's been on my mind so much. Is I am a divorced dad, right? So I have my kid part time. I don't have another partner that's helping to pay bills. I've known a lot of people that have gone into this industry married and not made it out of this industry married. So I know that there are some challenges there. But what I also have the benefit of is I didn't get into this industry young, right? I spent the first 15 years of my career in corporate America making like real money, not monopoly money. And so I know what is out there, but I also know what even kind of equivalent jobs in other industries make. Um and so it's been something that's always been, boy, I'm gonna kind of ramble here, but I'm gonna just kind of introduce a lot of topics. I think like when I left corporate America to go into brewing, I literally my salary took at least a 60% pay cut, if not more than 60% pay cut. Like I was making a solid wage. I'm not saying I was rolling in it, but I was making a very solid wage. And to get into the industry, I was married at the time to a wife who had a professional career as a vet, so she was okay. We could manage things. I could handle that pay cut. Uh, Subsequent divorce, that pay cut has suddenly looked like a really kind of dumb mistake. Despite the fact that I love what I do compared to hating what I did before. So I think maybe that's kind of the launching point, is just like what the impetus for this conversation is.
Very long time ago, like when I was first following you on Twitter, like this is probably 2018, 2019, somewhere around there. And we were just followers of one another. I'd never been on your show. This show I hadn't restarted. You talked a lot in this back and forth with me about the romanticism of the brewing industry and how making a product, like seeing it be created and enjoyed right before your very eyes, has created this romanticism about brewing that has blinded a lot of people to the fact that they were not making very much money off of it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, absolutely. I used to always joke that I try to pay my mortgage with integrity and passion, and they always prefer money. I think craft brewing has had two things going against it. Is one, let's be honest, it's a passion project. It's an elitist thing. You don't get to start a brewery unless you have a decent amount of funding behind you, which usually involves angel investors or people who have made their money elsewhere or things like that, right? And that's not to say that it's always the case, but it's very common in this industry. And then two, this industry was built on the back of volunteers. People who just thought it was cool to go in and help label bottles or waxed up bottles or do any of that bullshit. And maybe they got paid with a couple of beers at the end of the day. Stuff that literally would not fly in any other industry. But because craft beer has such a DIY ethos, which by the way, I have a huge DIY ethos. I
Same.
literally like I welded the CIP cart that we use at Dashfire right now. That was me. I have I definitely get the DIY ethos, but that DIY ethos has gotten to the point where there are literally labor violations in every other industry. I remember one time I had a robust conversation with Dave Berg, because he was talking about so Dave Berg, August Shell, you guys know him. I he and I both went to Iowa State. He was in the aerospace industry before then, and so he talked about how he wouldn't even take an internship if it wasn't paid. But I was art and theater. None of those internships paid a damn thing, right? So my experience coming into an industry was you take a job for free hoping that it turns into something that pays. His was, no, you don't ever not get paid what you're worth. Right? And he ultimately is the smart one and I'm the dumb one. I mean, that should go without saying that Dave Berg is smarter than me and I'm dumb. But he's right. We have hurt ourselves in this industry by saying, well, you know what? I can get a bunch of volunteers off the street to do this stuff. And so I don't have to pay for it. And so, I think what you're missing is usually what you do is you have those people working the canning line, which is the opposite of what you should be doing. That's the last place where something can go wrong. I can train a monkey to make wort. I can't train a monkey to figure out if something is wrong on a canning line. I'm sorry. Like putting volunteers on the canning line is the worst place. I'd rather put a volunteer on the brew stand, frankly. But also, now you've devalued that person's job. So that person who, I mean, I went to not only do I have a master's degree in business management and my project management professional certification, all those other things, I went to brewing school. So like I got that intensive brewing science and engineering diploma from the Brewers Guild, and I spent all this time in this industry. But because you can get a volunteer to do it for free, you're not going to pay me enough. Like that is, I think, where my sticking point has been.
When at my first brewery, we actually, looking back at this, it's a little bit surprising. We had volunteers probably the first couple times we bottled, and then after that, we paid everyone who volunteered to help with bottling and stuff like that, because our insurance was like, no, you can't do that.
I was gonna say that. Point. Yeah, that's literally the thing, is that there's literally legal ramifications to this stuff, and I think most breweries take the ask for forgiveness, not permission approach to a lot of this stuff.
That's the approach of the entire craft beer industry in general, at least on the level that we're talking about. Yeah. We still use volunteers mostly for pack out. We don't have them run the bottling line or anything, and we'll use a volunteer here or there for loading bottles and then pack out. But no, I completely understand where you're coming from with that. I mean, that's how I got into the beer industry. I was working in the restaurant industry, and if you want to talk about another industry that does take advantage of unpaid labor, I wasn't really a kitchen guy. I worked more front of the house, but stage. You go into the kitchen, you work a shift or two, you show them that you can work on a line, and then you get a job with that company. That wasn't a foreign concept to me. I worked for free as a brewer for almost a year and a half at Funky Buddha, the lounge, not the big, massive brewery, but the startup. Now I bartended at night. That's how I made they gave me a job that I could make my bills on, and I made good money. I bartended and made tips. That's cash in hand. I was young. I could do it. But every single batch of beer that I brewed for the first year and a half, I did that on my own free time because I was getting skills and getting an opportunity. And I guess it just seemed natural to me. Like that's what you do to get in and because you're passionate and you want to show how much you're bought into the company, and that can be really toxic.
So all the other industries I've worked, you don't do that. You show you're passionate by going in and collecting a paycheck.
Yeah.
And saying, hey, I'm worth this. Pay me what I'm worth, but let me show you that I'm worth even more. Right? it's so bizarre to me because again, so you bring up the whole thing, Mike, about insurance. I honestly can't believe more of that shit doesn't come up, but I think it's because most of the time the insurance companies don't even know that shit's going on.
Very true.
Oh no,
Very
yeah.
true. Like you friend of our show, former head brewer for Kevin's Brewery, Tim Buds. He got his start in the industry by being a volunteer at my first brewery. But we paid him. We paid him minimum wage plus a case of beer. At the end of his shifts, he put pack techs on cans and cased up and stacked pallets. And that was his start. And then he got a job at Barrel of Monks after a few months of doing that with us. And now he is a brewer at Athletic up in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he started as that, but we paid him. Like, it wasn't much, but he knew, like, he was just coming in to pretty much volunteer. But our insurance said you have to pay him minimum wage. And that's that. So we did. And
I would say you guys are probably one of the more rare cases in the industry, honestly, to be very blunt.
and it's funny if you really knew how stuff went on down there, like a lot of times that is a big shining example from a place that you wouldn't have expected sometimes.
Well,
but
I don't want to go off on a side tangent here, but Mike, there were a lot of things at that brewery that were progressive in the industry like that. I mean, we went on company trips. There were benefits. There were things that there were big positives about that brewery that I think sometimes we underplay because of all the bullshit. There's a lot of other bad stuff too. But I mean, listen, taking someone in, I am saying this honestly, please, I hope no insurance company comes after me. We are not paying our volunteers to pack out. And this is years later, and I'm conscious of some of these things, and I'm not doing it. And this is years and years ago, 10 years ago, and the person that we're talking about that ran that brewery did it, whether it was because they felt they had to or they were trying to be a good dude, I don't know. But that's impressive. Give him give that guy his flowers, Mike. Give him his flowers.
That is super impressive. I mean, this is an industry that's built out of a bunch of homebrewers. Let's be honest. This industry is built out of a bunch of homebrewers, right? And frankly, a lot of homebrewers that didn't go cut their teeth somewhere else. It's like if a bunch of people said, "Hey, I make a really mean tortellini," and opened up a bunch of Italian restaurants, and you're like, no, you got to go like really learn restaurant management and operations and all of those things before you do that. And they're like, no, fuck that. I'm just going to go ahead and open it up because my friends love my tortellini. That's what craft beer has been, right?
Yeah.
But also there is this just stupid, and I felt this when I was a home brewer before I got into professional brewing. There's just a stupid amount of like romance, just romanced about how I don't know. I mean, it's so many of these guys that are opening up a brewery, it's because they're like, oh, I got tired of the rat race and I want to do something different type of thing. Which again also devalues the industry because it makes it seem like it's here are real jobs, here's craft brewing. Like it divides that and says, oh, you know what? Real jobs are the rat race. Craft brewing is kind of like your retirement, sunshine, whatever type of career. And I think that doesn't help anything, especially because a lot of these guys, are like corporate guys. Like, like when I have this debate with Dave Berg, and again, he always turns out to be right, but like they are a union shop, but there are not a whole lot of union shops around this country for breweries.
I feel like most of them are in Minnesota that I know.
I would probably say that yes, the land of Paul Wellstone and Walter Mondale and all of that are probably the place where you're going to get most of the union shops. But it's not.
Big Walter
it's not
Mondale drop. I like that.
Yeah, thank you. I have a personal aside that I'll say for after the pod about Walter Mondale and his daughter. But the reality is that we took a bunch of these people that would be, tradespeople, whether you're pro union, anti union, that doesn't matter. The reality is that you have these people that have a specialized skill set that in the trades would do fairly well. I think if there's one thing I would tell any kid that's getting out of high school right now is go into the trades. Like, look at being a welder, look at being an electrician, look at being these things because they have way more stability. They tend to have a lot better benefits, and the pay seems to be a lot more stable in a lot of those things. We don't treat brewing like a trade. We treat it like
art.
like art, and it's fucking not art. I'm sorry, it's not. It's not. Every time people are like, "Oh, there's an art to brewing," and I'm like, "No, you have romanticized the shit out of that." It's not. I was an art student, man. I was an art major, a theater minor. There's not a goddamn thing I took from any of my college education for as an art student, a theater minor, that I'm applying to brewing. It's not a fucking art. It's not. It's a science. And not only is it a science, it's also a trade. It requires things. Like I've learned how to fix air compressors in this industry. I've learned how to weld in this industry. I've learned how to do so many things that are part of the trades. I know way more about what an electrician does, and I've wired things myself. I've like fixed pumps. I've done so many things that I did not get in my art education. This is not an art. You can quit stroking yourself.
Well, there's an important aspect of why that is. It's because if we're trying to sell ourselves as an industry as something that is special and unique, and we're trying to sell an experience, and we're trying to put out beers that are going to capture imagination, selling yourself as an art versus we are people that go and bust their ass every day. Now you're just talking about making a Ford car, and that's
I don't know, man.
But
I don't know, man.
What I'm saying is that I think that's a mistake. Like there's hard work, effort, and knowledge that goes into being a good brewer, right? And good breweries. When I think of Sierra Nevada, who we talked about earlier, I don't think about somebody whimsically prancing through a brew house, dreaming up
I am
ideas. Well, because I put that in your head.
Through the tulips. Yeah, no, I know.
I think about somebody going, okay, I got a fucking job to do. I'm going to make a goddamn good beer. I have my skill set, and I'm going to sit down like a tradesman and make a goddamn good beer. And I think that's part of the disconnect between what you guys are talking about, Tim, specifically about like this romanticized version of what beer is versus what the reality is. And we've probably been, as an industry, we've probably been representing ourselves as a whole improperly.
Yeah, I mean, when we sit there, I mean, like that was one of the things that I thought was brilliant about Sam Adams had that campaign. What was that, like 6-7 years ago, where they showed like the brewers and what they're doing, and they talked it like they showed guys in like work shirts and like,
oh yeah,
right, like we're guys that are producing this stuff, and I think that's one of the things where people have been so confused, right? Because you watch Laverne and Shirley, and it's people in a factory on a line, right? And so you think like the big guys are like working in a factory, and it's just turning out widgets, but the craft brewers are handcrafting, they're sculpting, like they're molding a clay vase on a wheel. Like that's not what the fuck this is, right? I mean, we don't get good malt in the craft brewing industry because of us. We get it because Anheuser Busch, AB InBev makes sure that the malt is high quality. Like they send a PhD malting scientist to raw malting once a quarter to make sure everything's up to spec. I go to raw malting. I've been there several times. They're down the road. I go, yep, looks like malt. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Like you can call me an artist all I want. If I don't know what my materials are, it's nothing. It's nothing. Right? But we do treat it like it's this Well, and again, so we sell it to the consumer as like it's art, but I don't even think the consumer cares about that. I feel like that's more masturbation than anything else. I don't even think the consumer cares about it as an art.
I feel like we're inflating our own egos, Mike.
Yeah.
I would kind of agree with you there, Tim. And my job predominantly is to portray beer as art right now. Like I don't think that the consumer looks at beer as art so much as I think that a lot of consumers look at beer and they want to look at it in a few different ways. They want to look at it as something as a company or a brand that aligns with their ethos or their lifestyle. And it's why lifestyle brands, like as dumb as it might sound, they work.
Yeah,
because they appeal to people at what they like to do.
I mean, I've brought it up on this podcast before, but Grey Goose. Nobody likes Grey Goose in a blind taste test, but they like it because they identify with that brand.
Oh,
and I don't think it's that anyone thinks that, and I don't even think that it's anyone thinks that Grey Goose is just like artisanally handcrafted and it's this beautiful, elegant thing. They just identify with the brand, bar none.
Yeah. And a lot of people do with other brands. Like that's why Tito's is like so fucking big. Is they portray themselves as a brand of people.
The anti-Grey Goose.
Yeah,
really, they're the anti-Grey Goose. And I mean, I know they won a lot of. I don't know anything about vodka. But
I think Tito's is actually really good. I think that probably helps. But yeah.
But that might be it too. But this is a thing I've been saying for years and years, and I've had to say this to my partners pretty much every single meeting, because when things are not going well and the beer's not moving and we have to pivot or whatever that corporate speak is, they go, "But the beer's really good," and I keep saying, "You act like that matters. It does not matter that the beer's good. It's never mattered that the beer's good. The best beers don't necessarily move. The best restaurants don't necessarily stay open. The best anything doesn't succeed on its merits most of the time. It's how it's marketed, how it's packaged, what the lifestyle of it is. And
even where it's fucking located. I can think of breweries that are absolute garbage and have terrible branding and everything else about them is terrible, but they're in the right place, that they're always going to get tourists, or they're always going to get foot traffic, or they're always going to get whatever. And some of them even know they're putting out shit beer. Like, but yeah, no, you're right. The best quality has nothing to do with sales.
It never has.
We had an episode that was entirely based on that, and I think what we kind of landed on, in the long run, it kind of does, but it doesn't necessarily mean it for a short run, because we talked about breweries who are bad quality, who got they got into sets with the big grocers and prime placements, but when sales, because the beer wasn't very good, didn't keep up, they were booted out with the next reset. Like stuff will eventually, like the cream will eventually rise to the top, as Mr. Savage once said.
I really hope that's true, but there are a lot of breweries that I can think of that I still think are just effing garbage, but people have just bought, like they've drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak.
Well, and by the way, I mean, if you want to name any of those, I do my best not to do that myself, because I always, I'm
not going to. I'm just saying that.
But when Mike says that, and I'm thinking back to that conversation, I'm thinking about the grocery store set. I'm not thinking about the tap room and how busy it is. I'm not thinking about the line outside the door when they release their marshmallow peanut butter Gatorade beer. I'm thinking about like the quality on the shelf. And I think there is something to that, because I remember the public store set 10 years ago, and there's a bunch of garbage beers that did get kicked out. And I look more and more and I'm like, more Sierra Nevada, more New Belgium, more Lagunitas, more, consistent, well-made beers are there, spattered in with a bunch of local, sometimes crap. Maybe Barrel of Monks is one of those, by the way. But I do think that there is something to that eventually people will go, oh, this beer is overcarbonated half the time, or what have you. I do want to point out, while I have the floor, that we have totally moved off. We've lost the plot. And by the way, I think that the hybrid conversation of brand awareness and what craft beer is doing and how we're perceived / pay, maybe we have to make another podcast that also covers both of these realms and like make them, symbiotic. They're sister podcasts to each other.
Well, yeah, they are, right? So we had talked before we started about the whole, we've brought up on this podcast in the past, the whole Sam Calgione affordable luxury. We've also just branded beer wrong. We've branded craft beer wrong. As much as I say, there's not an art and there's not quality and blah, 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 blah. Who gets away with charging an exorbitant buttload?
Everything else.
Well, yeah, but like wine, right?
Spirits do too.
Spirits do, but wine to a ridiculous amount. I can, what? I might go to a really nice steakhouse, and you know what? Maybe I'll order a $40 scotch. But you know what? I'm gonna think hard before I order that $40 scotch. That $40 bottle of wine, I'm not gonna blink twice about.
But
but I see a $7 tap, and I'm like, ooh, we've so undersold that, and so you can't make enough money to pay people what they're worth because we've literally said we're gonna use these premium ingredients, right? We're gonna use premium malt, premium hops. We're gonna pay
overhead
$40 a pound on Galaxy for whatever fucking reason, and we're not going to be able to recoup that money if we pay our people what they're worth.
I just priced out an IPA for distribution today. The beer is that I am selling it for the same price to distro because of what the market will bear. Yep. It is $75 more a barrel to create because of the unique yeast strain we have to use and the hops that we had to buy and the margins that we don't have economies of scale on this brand. It's a one-time beer. So it's $75 more a barrel, and I'm selling at the exact same price as a beer that was, $75 less.
Yeah.
But so how
the fuck could you possibly pay that brewer who spent a lot of time and a lot of effort crafting that recipe, brewing that beer, shepherding it through the entire process, seeing that from grain to glass? If you're not going to make money on that beer, that brewer, if they were a sales guy, they wouldn't get any commission because they wouldn't have made any money, right? Which it's an ill-fitting analogy, but my point is that I get why it's hard to pay people for that, and so part of I guess what I'm saying is we fucked ourselves over in this industry by
wanting to be affordable.
Yeah, we want to be that affordable luxury, but we already have the affordable luxury, right? PBR is already affordable luxury. It's already something I want. And calling it a luxury, sure. Being able to bring a case of PBR home at the end of the day is a luxury, especially on a brewer's salary. But we're making a premium product that we're selling for sub-premium prices, so no wonder we're going to pay people sub-premium wages.
Amen, bro. Looking at this and seeing who we have to compete with, I think you hit the nail on the head. We have to compete with big beer that has vastly more. And listen, I don't want to make this a condemnation on them.
No,
I think you were talking about selling yourself short. You've mentioned that multiple times.
Well, that's because I'm only 5'6". Of course I do.
I've had this conversation with my partner Keith all the time. We go into a negotiation. We have a deal right now we're trying to work with on a big customer. And our first instinct is, what deal can we give you?
Yeah.
What can we give you so that you will buy beer from us? Because we need this, right? We're not thinking we're going to be $30 more a keg on this because we're the best brand, the best quality, and we're going to make sure we deliver it to you at all times. No, we're going to dumb ourselves down to what the baseline is by a crappy brewery with crappy ingredients that doesn't deliver beer on time, and they didn't even make any money off that beer in the first place. They just did it for volume because they thought at some point if we do enough beer, somehow profits will happen. And that has been our ethos in this industry for forever. And if we keep on this treadmill, we just all lose.
Yeah, one thing that got drilled in my head in business school is you can't win on price. Don't win on price because someone's always going to be able to do it cheaper. And all you're ever going to do, the best you can hope for when you compete on price is to erode your margin. Right? Like, unless you are the biggest and the best, then you can do that. But you can't. I mean, there's a reason Walmart puts people out of business, right? Like, and I'm not saying that's
they're
cool
the biggest. They can
because they're the biggest and they can compete on price, but no one else can. And so when they're constantly, in brewing, I've always hated when I see people discount their core product. First of all, that was one thing I always learned in business school was don't discount your core product. I always hated at Buffalo Wild Wings when they would try to give wing deals. No. Discount our burgers. They don't sell, and they have a better margin. Chicken prices are through the roof. Corn prices are through the roof the last quarter. So chicken prices are through the roof the last quarter. Don't give cheap wings out. Discount our burgers. They got a better margin.
Wings is in the name. That's what people are coming in for.
I know, but that's the thing is you're making more money off of that. If they're already coming in for wings, they're already going to pay for wings. Yeah. You don't need to discount it to bring them in the door. They're already coming in the door for that.
Mike, it seems like you've been chomping at the bit for like 5 minutes.
I had a great transition
and you
off of the Union House stuff, and it just like it passed by.
So anyway, so Shells is a Union House, and I really wish there was more of that in brewing. So anyway, Mike, do you have a thought on that?
Speaking of unions and labor and fair labor, one of the things that I find, the base pay for breweries is one thing, but I think that another aspect of pay where there is a lot of kind of shadiness going on with breweries is overtime. And the illegal and possibly ignorant, but illegal use of overtime exemption, and the federal standard for Fair Labor Standards Act has specific guidelines on what classifies an employee to be exempt from overtime. Certain states have different things in place as well. But I'm going to speak purely from federal. Also, the fact that Florida does not have their own labor guidelines in regards to overtime, they default to the federal standard. Just because you have someone on salary does not make them exempt from overtime. Just because the person is a manager does not make them exempt from overtime. Overtime exemption is decided in 3 different categories, with different things that have to be satisfied in each one of those categories. And it all has to do with the work that is actually done, not titles. And I want to go over this because there is I'm going to link to this in the description for the show on our website, unitedwedrink.com. So if you want to read this specifically, please do. It is from Wilson McCoy Law Firm, who are a labor law firm out of the Orlando area. So they are speaking from a Florida perspective. Exemption number 1 is an executive exemption. This is all of these exemptions must make a salary of at least $455 per week. Executives also must have a primary duty that is in management of the entire company, must have 2 people or more that work directly under them as full-time employees, and has authority to hire or fire other people or recommend hiring and firing of people. Almost no brewery employee in a brewery, I'm not talking about upper management type of people like that, satisfy executive exemption. Administrative exemption, I'm just going to throw that right out of the window right away because these are pretty much desk jobs. Professional exemption is where a lot of breweries tend to abuse overtime exemption. This says that the person must be compensated that amount. The primary duty must require knowledge of an advanced field of science, learning customarily acquired by a prolonged course of specialized intellectual instruction, or requires inventive imagination, originality, or talent in a recognized field of artistic or creative endeavor. This is where a lot of breweries like to plug their brewery employees into. But the FLSA has vehemently have said many
You got
times.
it. You got it right the first time.
You actually even
backtrack.
said it right, and you still
Vehemently
question yourself. Yeah.
said that manual labor does not apply under this guideline, and that these learned, specialized things are things that come from actual education, like higher learning institutions, and cannot be things that would be applied to on-the-job training. It is not something that someone could just go into a job and work their way up to being. So this basically negates almost everyone in a brewery, with the possible exception of some head brewers, possibly lab people that you have out there who have higher learning and learned an advanced science. Like, this even lays claim, also not legal advice. I am not a lawyer, not legal advice. There we go. Got that out of the way. I always see that online. I'm not a lawyer. Anal. Great. But
I'm a non-attorney paid spokesperson.
But this seems very clear and cut to me that your cellar people can't be overtime exempt. Your packaging people cannot be overtime exempt. Like this, your shift brewers can't be overtime exempt because it has nothing to do with them being a manager. It has nothing to do with how much they make. It is so much to do with what work they actually do. And like, this is clear as day that the federal government says blue collar manual labor jobs are not overtime exempt. And going back to this thing about breweries being trade jobs, not artisanal jobs, that pretty much says you work over 40 hours, you should be getting time and a half after that.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that you distinguish between hourly non-exempt and salary non-exempt, because I think what I have seen in my history is I actually successfully lobbied to get 2 breweries away from going from salary to hourly. And it wasn't because I didn't think people didn't deserve overtime. They absolutely do. What I knew was that in both instances, they were just trying to cut costs by saying, if you're here 39 hours, I'm not paying you for 40. When literally we all know that there's nothing in the brewery industry. Like, you're literally going to just be sweeping floors, or like the dirty secret about going from salary to hourly is that you don't get another hour worth of work output out of someone. You just get someone who's found a way to be busy for an hour. When things are lean. Now, when things are extra, they absolutely should deserve to get extra. But this industry has cycles that we all know where, you know what? I don't want my brewers struggling because I have to find jobs for them to do to keep them busy for 40 hours when things are tight so that they can pay their bills. But I don't want them punished when things are busy and we're all here 60 hours a week type of thing. And I think that to me is that's just a business world as a whole problem. That's not just the brewing industry. It's probably worse than the brewing industry, but you can be salary and still get overtime. And I think that's something that is
exactly what I'm stating. Because it doesn't matter whether you are salaried or hourly. These overtime exemptions apply to all workers.
exactly.
And
And that's what sucks is because people think, oh, you know what? If I go to hourly, I can get away from all that shit.
And I would also like to state that, for the record, that things like this, like you cannot divert time worked to another paycheck period. Like, for example, if an employee goes overtime for a paycheck period, you can't be like, you know what? Like you work in those 4 extra hours this week. You can take 4 hours off next week. That's not how it works at all.
Yep.
Like person works overtime in their pay period, they get overtime. But what I wanted to get to out of this,
you work a beer festival on Saturday, you get paid for that.
Yeah. But what I basically wanted to get to with this is not just the fact that it is illegal and could cost the company largely if an employee wanted to seek relief from that.
But it's all risk reward. They don't make enough to pay for an attorney, so it's not going to ever happen.
But well, I mean, a lot of those labor attorneys will get their money from the settlement.
I suppose.
But
that's going to be a settlement of when you're making $5 an hour. It's going to be a settlement of nothing. You know what I mean? Like it's.
I don't know, but
I know I get what you're saying.
What I'm stating is there's ways that breweries can then look at this type of thing. And I know that Kevin could probably rightfully could argue that I can't afford, like, I'm not saying that Kevin is doing it, but from an ownership standpoint, that he could.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm here too.
Like let's say hypothetically, you have 3 employees and 2 of them are working overtime, but they should be technically non-exempt from that. And let's say they worked 50 hours, each of them, 10 hours overtime at time and a half. Like, you could be, instead of paying that, you could bring in another person part-time to full-time paying that same thing and get a lot more work done and save all of your people some backache. Because that's a thing too, is not only is it the pay can be bad, the overtime can be bad. It's that these people feel broken after long periods of time. They feel burnt out. I've been there. And like at the end of a week, let's say you worked 50, 60 hours in that week for $33,000, $34,000, $35,000 a year, and you're like, fuck, I hurt. You're having your shift beer on Friday and you just feel fucking lost. Because
that's because you lost the passion, Mike.
Yeah, you're not an artist anymore.
When you your hourly pay out of 60 hours at 30 something, low 30 something a year, you're making fuck all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and when you talk about total compensation, right? It's still rare in this industry for anyone to pay, like, to give any benefits. Like, I had a healthcare benefit plan that I could have participated in at Unmapped, but it was way cheaper for me to go through the state healthcare plan than it was to actually be on Unmapped's healthcare plan. I'm not judging Unmapped. I just saying previous, right? I've never gotten any type of 401k, IRA, pension, any type of thing in any of this shape or form. So like if I go to the Pepsi bottler down in Egan, right, to just work on a packaging line down there, I'm probably going to make A, $10 more an hour. B, I'm going to get better benefits and I'm going to get a retirement plan. All covered in all of that. So my total compensation isn't just that I'm making more money. I actually am set up for retirement. I don't know a career brewer that really feels like they're going to feel well, because again, you can't do this forever. It's a physically demanding job. You can't be at 65 nearing retirement and still doing this job. And there's no one who is being set up.
It's like, I mean, superstar brewers that we have in this industry probably haven't been on a brew deck full time in close to 10 years at this point in time.
I know, but
because they know what the demands were on them.
Yeah, and they also can get fired at any time when the company is bought by Monster Beverage.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a callback to last. That's a callback to last episode. But I mean, so I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna name names only because this stuff is literally publicly available, right? I have looked out there. So there are 98, 71 or something like that breweries. The BA just released all their numbers for last year, right? They do that whole data dump of there this many breweries.
You said 9871. I'm like, what the fuck is that?
9,809.
Okay, yeah,
and 9,871 breweries in the country, right? So Minnesota has 3 in the top 50, right? We have Summit, we have Shells, and we have, I think, Shells, Summit, and Surly, right? Surly was like 44th largest brewery in the country, right? So out of the 9,800 breweries in the country, they're in the top 0.4%. Top 0.4%. They pay their brewers $21 an hour. That works out to be about $42,000 a year. So there have been 2 things that have come out in the last year. One has been, I'm going to pull this up because I had it on my phone because it was something that was really interesting to me. This was the Economic Policy Institute that literally said for a single person to afford the basics, food, housing, healthcare, transportation, cell phone, basics, $47,000, $47,442 a year. So Surly is literally saying, our brewers, not our cellar person, not our packaging person, our brewers who actually have to be like thinking, have to make decisions, are going to make less a year than what the basic income to be able to survive. Another one came up.
Is that a localized thing, or was that for?
That was for the Twin Cities. Now the other one was Smart Asset said, now if you actually want to live comfortably as a single person, which means like you have a retirement plan, you have healthcare, you have all these other things, it literally jumps all the way up to $90,000 a year. And I'm not saying that any brewery would ever pay $90,000 a year. I'm not suggesting that they should. I'm not getting to that point. My point is that I live in a metro area where the best breweries in the state don't pay what is basically a living wage. The best breweries in the state. In fact, best breweries in the country. 0.4% of breweries make more beer than Surly.
Also, didn't they kind of union bust?
Well, yeah, there is that. But literally, 0.4% of the breweries in the entire country are bigger than Surly, and Surly pays less than what a single person could possibly do. So now think about me. I don't make that. I have a kid. I have a mortgage. I have all these other things that are on there. Do you know what? I know my kid is in grade school, but I can't. She's in grade school from 9 to 3. I can't work from 9 to 3. I have to have a before and after school program for her. That's going to cost money, right? I've got healthcare needs for her. That's going to cost money. She's certainly not going to be in my healthcare plan because that's not covered by the brewery. I never get a chance to put into a retirement plan whatsoever. I've eaten up my IRA just to be able to survive the pandemic. Most of my IRA went away. Like, so that was basic needs. It said for a single person, basic needs. So for a family like mine, it would have to be $50,000 a year. I just saw at a different brewery, because I've been looking, just posted their head brewer job was $42,000 a year. So that's still well below what it takes to just have a basic income in this city. I get that we are not paying minimum wage, and I'm not going to get into a whole minimum wage argument and all that stuff. We're not going down that road. But my point is, how do you expect brewers to even just be able to live? Like, how do you expect anyone to want to do this? And then to know, I mean, what's my lifespan as a brewer? Right? I'm 45. What is my lifespan as a brewer? What are my next steps? There's no path upward for me. I don't have any way for me to make more money. There's no upward mobility in this industry, right? I could go get an entry level. I have my project management professional certification. I have years of project management professional use. I could do a whole lot. I could do an entry level project management job for probably 50, 60,000, which is more than I'm making right now. But you know what? That's my floor. That's not my ceiling. My ceiling in the brewing industry here is probably 60,000. My ceiling is probably 60,000. And again, that's not living comfortably. That's making ends meet. That is why I get so fucking passionate about this. I have a fucking kid. I hope someday I can send her to college. I hope someday I can pay for her marriage. I hope someday I can leave her something in the future. I don't care if I never get to retire. Like, I could work until the very last day when I fall over. But the reality is this industry is taking people. It's taking advantage of these young kids who don't know any better, and us old guys are now. We're now getting pushed out, and we don't have other places. And we're not getting pushed out because we're not good. We're getting pushed out because we deserve too much pay. Frankly. Wow, I didn't mean to cast such a pall over the podcast.
No, I really appreciate you sharing that. And I hope it doesn't come off as like disingenuous at all.
No, I trust you, Kevin. If Mike would have said that, I wouldn't have believed it, but I trust you.
That's why I have been consistently voted the least dependable person on the podcast.
I think that it is fair to say, and I'm coming from an owner's perspective here.
Yeah.
I have never paid an employee as much as they are worth.
Yeah.
Never.
No, I know.
Never.
I know you say that, and I appreciate you say that.
And there are a lot of reasons for that, and there is no doubt that anybody who has ever worked for me can say that's bullshit. I deserve more, and you should pony up that dough. And if it turns out that Barrel of Monks gets burned to the ground, or the entire brewing industry gets burned to the ground because we can't take care of the people who take care of us, maybe that's justice. Maybe this industry can't survive the way it is, and that's okay. I mean,
no marks on you. I think there are a lot of breweries that probably shouldn't be in business. Is that a fair statement to say?
Well, that's a fair statement to say about quality. That's a fair statement to say about
I think we've said
reality.
that many times on the show. But
also from just like a human perspective, I don't think.
I think that what Kevin just said there is poetic of sorts. Is you know what? Like if if that becomes the sticking point to this industry, is that people are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they aren't getting paid what they feel that they need to, and you can't train the monkeys to sit on the brew deck anymore, then maybe this industry needs to burn the fuck down. And hearing an owner say that
Yeah,
is a little refreshing.
I'm humbled by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
I'm almost misty-eyed, Kevin.
I mean,
Well, I'm glad I made an impact.
yeah, I mean, that's one thing that Kevin, I've always respected about him, is even when he and I don't see eye to eye on things, is he can absolutely empathize with my side of things, way more than I can empathize with his side. So I give him so much credit for that. I am a wear my heart on my sleeve type of guy. And I get very worked up over things that I'm passionate about. And sometimes when I'm talking to Kevin about that, and that he can just listen to me, and he can be like, Mike, I hear you. And then here is what is going on with me. But you are absolutely right with what you think and you feel. And I'm like, God damn it, why can't you be upset at me?
No, I get it. So I mean, here's where I get on my soapbox, and here's where I get arrogant. I bring a lot to the table. Like I said, I went to brewing school. I've spent a lot of years. I've been in multiple different things, and I also bring a lot of other diverse background skills. And the place I work at right now is going to lose me to some shitty job I don't like because they pay twice as much. Because I need to pay for things for my kid. Right? Like, I need to pay for things for my kid. And that sucks. I don't want to leave the industry, but I mean, I suppose, maybe I could go work for Pepsi or Coke or one of those local bottlers and still be industry adjacent or whatever, and probably do a bit better. But the reality is that we're just not doing the workers in this, because again, so sorry, I'm getting ranty, and that's fine. But like Kevin, you always talk about, like, you have a barrel of Monk's beer, and you always give credit to the brewers, right? And I know that you love those brewers, and I'm not saying that you're not doing enough to respect those brewers or pay those brewers. I'm just saying
I'm not, by the way, but go ahead.
Yeah, but we're literally holding these brewers in high regard for what they do and the products that they produce. But we're paying them less than one guy who literally runs the cutter at a printing shop, right? Like, not even like someone who knows how to operate any real piece of equipment. It's literally a cutter at a printing shop. That guy is making $30 an hour to run a cutter at a printing shop. And I'm not denigrating what that guy does. Like, fuck that guy. I wish I had his job. That's awesome. He doesn't have to do anything other than load reams of paper, let it cut, and stack them and move on, right? At what point do we hit a tipping point in this industry where we realize, is it when we finally admit that there is a saturation point, that we admit that there is a bubble? Well, no, it's not a bubble. I hate the term bubble. Bubbles are false. But there is a saturation point, and we do have too many breweries, and we aren't doing the right things, because like the big guys are paying.
It's saturating. It's not a bubble. It's a sponge.
Mike,
I don't even know where I was going with that. So
yeah, when we realize,
I'm going to go back over here. Go back over here. All right,
guys. It's when we realize that the market is saturated. It's when we realize that there's no way that all of us can be supported and actually make money in this industry unless we're adding an order of magnitude to our production. Unless we're doubling our production and actually putting money in the pockets and actually being able to pay people. Yeah, I would say that I think that's prophetic.
I mean,
Tim?
I mean, to be perfectly fair to you, Kevin, I'm not one of these guys that sits here and says these owners are fat cats that have all this money. You guys aren't making money. And I don't know your situation, but my point is that no one's making money in this industry, right? Like at some point there is a tipping point where we have to be. I see your face, Mike. I would say more people are not than are. I think
That is true. I do think that is true.
I think Florida is
There-
very different because there's definitely, I would say Florida in particular probably has a lot more vanity projects than like say Minnesota.
I also want to
there
mention
is
that
probably
you
a
can
lot
always
more
say Florida's different and then just be done. Florida's different and just be done.
But I'm not wrong. There's probably more vanity projects because there's just more stupid.
There's a lot of bad faith actors.
There's a lot of
down
stupid
here.
people with money
And-
to burn that are doing shit.
and you
Like,
know,
I'm not going to say anything about Joel's former brew pub.
I worked there for 2 months. But there was there is a bad faith actor problem still in this industry because
Yeah.
like some of them are still trying to get into it. The fact that I still see articles about breweries opening up who were like, they're leaving the corporate world to do, like, that's such a fucking passe fucking thing anymore. Do we fucking care that you made 6 figures and you're leaving that to do your passion? No, we don't fucking care
God,
about
there's
that
literally
anymore.
one that just announced like yesterday they're doing that, and I got so like irrationally. I was literally on my couch all by myself, getting irrationally angry at my phone, reading about these 2 guys that are leaving corporate to open up their dream, and I'm just like,
But like,
just
the thing is-
masturbate in your
the thing is-
bathroom. Don't do it in front of all of us. This is so dumb.
But
I mean, we've talked
people
about
eat that
this
shit up. That's the fucked up part. People eat that shit up.
I
Like,
don't think they do anymore, though. I think
Some people do. Some people
think-
do because they look at that as the fucking American dream.
Well, I think people did. And maybe it's different down there. I think here, no one gives a shit anymore. Like, even the beer nerds, the most hardcore beer nerds right now, when they see a new brewery up here, they roll their eyes. They don't give a. I'm tired of it. The number of times that people are like, "Oh, you're a brewer. Have you been to this brewery?" I'm like, "I've never heard of that brewery." Like, how have you not? Because I'm like, because I don't give a fucking shit about any other brewery anymore. There's too many, and I don't care.
The Twin Cities is much more of a blue collar type of town that that type of shit just doesn't fucking.
I mean,
Like,
we
we're-
also do have one of the most Fortune 500 per capita.
I know
yeah,
you
we're not
pointed
blue
that out to
collar
me before.
necessarily. I'm just
But,
saying,
you know, just to go to a union type of thing before, like the fact that like I feel like
We're just a
Minneapolis
blue
has
town.
more union breweries than Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is a huge fucking union city.
oh yeah,
like-
no, we just actually have brotherly love. We just don't claim that we do.
No, you have Minnesota Nice.
Oh yeah, we're just passive aggressive as fuck. Yeah.
um that was a fun conversation that I had with you on text before, but
Yeah, it was fun.
the thing is like there is a ton of bad faith actors who a lot of them are being weeded out, and that's fucking good. But there are ones that are successful, and they are successful in their own way.
Yeah.
They're successful personally to themselves. They are the types who like they might have like fucking 2 brewery locations, 5 tap rooms, but their head brewers might still be only making $50,000 a year, which like
and that would be a dream. When I left Unmapped, I applied for 2 head brewer jobs. The highest was 55. The other one was 45. 45 again, below what all the metrics say I should even be able to live on by myself on. So yeah, I get that.
it's just, does there need to be a fucking reckoning? Yeah, there does to a certain standpoint. I mean, If it's not the fucking pay, then it is the overtime. If it's not the fucking overtime, it's the fucking benefits. Like people need to fucking live. They need to be able to support their families, their lives. I'm not saying that everyone needs to be living an extravagant life, but people should be able to live a decent life.
Dude, if I'm gonna
They
say
should-
that, if I'm gonna say that you had to have gone to brewing school and you have to have years of brewing experience before you can hump on my brew deck, I shouldn't pay you $21 an hour.
No.
End of story.
Yeah.
I'm asking you way more. I'm asking you way more than any other job. Again, there was a job that I saw the other day that paid $25 an hour, and it was literally like restacking pallets. And that's more than like 90% of the brewing jobs in this industry, or in this city. Like, restacking pallets is worth more than someone who literally knows how to build a recipe and shepherd a beer from grain to glass. Not fair. It's not fair at all. It's not fair at all. And so the industry is going to implode because everyone's going to leave.
Yeah, and maybe that's like what Kevin said, and maybe we need that. Maybe, and the ones that will survive are the larger nationals, the larger regionals that do their people good, and a handful of the small ones who have done it right from day one.
You know, a side note on that. Sorry, not to totally sidetrack us, but I know someone who recently got offered a job by a very large national brand, and without being, it's not a Molson Coors or AB InBev job, but it also does not pay nearly.
I know that they're not all the best. I
know, but
that.
Like, Sierra Nevada isn't even paying as well as they should. Which blows my mind. Like, they can pay PhD scientists $100,000 to run lab tests, but they still can't pay their shift brewers fucking anything. Like, they can't give them a morsel. I don't get that. I'll call them out, because who the fuck from Sierra Nevada is gonna come after me? It's fine. But yeah, no, like, literally, man, you're literally asking these people again. I went to brewing school. I have a master's degree. I have all of these other skills. I have years of experience. And the best I can hope for is a job that maybe pays me the bare minimum that allows me to live without a daughter, let alone now I have a daughter. That's where I struggle. And I know that it's not owners' problems. I know that it's an industry problem, but we have done ourselves an entire disservice. And then every time I see someone like Surly post a shit pay rate, I get angry. I'm like, you're literally devaluing the entire industry.
Do they actually post their pay on their?
They do. If you go to Indeed right now and look up Surly, they will literally post that their shift brewers make $21 to $23 an hour, and 23 is for the guys that take the overnights.
That I give them at least some props for putting it out there, because there are a lot of places that like this pay is based off of experience. Like, fucking put it out there. At least it's man up.
I was gonna say, for up here in Minneapolis, I'll be honest, most places have been kind of forced to put it out there.
Oh yeah, I know there are some places that like some areas where it is a requirement to put a.
Well, it's also I literally called out an employer that I applied to. It's illegal to ask what you make at your current job.
Wait, what?
It's illegal to ask what you make at your current job. As if I'm a hiring manager, if I am a hiring,
okay, I got you.
Yeah, if I'm a hiring manager and I ask you,
it's illegal for me to ask my boss how much I make.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
You can't know. It's a mystery. It's a wheel. You go in there and they spin it, and it goes. Oh,
big money, no whammies, no whammies.
No whammies.
You got 1.5 million. Thank God.
No.
That was actually really impressive. I didn't realize that you were a beatbox.
Oh, I am. Yeah, that was nice. Thank you. That was terrible. But no. No. It's in this state we've finally made it illegal that you can't ask what someone makes at their current job when you're a hiring manager. And I literally had to like call out. I think I applied for a job and they asked what I currently made, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna just send you this link to the Minnesota statute that says that you actually can't ask that. You might want to update this before you do anything, but also I obviously don't want to work for you if that's the way you're going to do things. But yeah, we have undercut ourselves in the industry over and over and over again, and breweries like Surly that I'm not going to say anything about their union practices, but that are literally paying people that they want to be experts, they want to be smart. Shit, I was gonna look this up. Because literally the requirements that they had. Hold on, let me see this. I don't mind going to war with them. They're not ever gonna hire me for a goddamn thing. It's okay.
We're going a little long here.
A
So
wee bit. A wee bit.
Yeah.
let's try to wrap up with like maybe some final thoughts on
Okay, that's
this.
fair.
Like if you want to wrap up a main thought into a little package.
Okay. No, no, that's fair. That's fair. Obviously, I get very heated about this topic, and obviously, I care a lot about it. But it's because I literally have a daughter that I'd like to provide for.
Yeah.
So obviously, I get very passionate, and so I do apologize for being very verbose about this. But at the end of the day, man, I live in a 700 square foot house. It is tiny. It's me and my daughter in a 700 square foot house. Uh, I love this industry. I'm afraid to leave this industry, frankly, because this is the one thing I've been really, really good at. I'm afraid to leave the industry. I hate the idea of leaving it. But I can't afford to be in it anymore. So as much as I've loved this industry, it has not loved me back. And that sucks, because this industry is losing someone who's really fucking good at what he does. Who took the time to go to school to learn about this stuff. Who takes the time to go to conferences to continue to learn about this stuff. Who wants to be better. This industry is going to lose that. Because I can't afford to just send my daughter to a before and after school program. Because I can't afford to pay my bills. We gotta figure something out. We do. We have to figure something out. And I don't know what it is. So basically, I'm leaving you all on a dour note with no upside or solution.
I can sympathize with you a whole lot. Tim, Joel, and I have a typically ongoing text message chain going on between us, and I feel like as long as we've had that going on, like Joel, like for lack of a better term, is a burn this fucking industry to the ground type of guy. I love Joel to death. But his very straightforward look on that has always been to me like, I've come out every so often with a response to that, like, I love this. I love what I do in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
I love making beer. I love
you've been the voice of reason, or at least optimism.
Like, I want to do this for a living. I absolutely do. I think that it is something that it's an industry that I care about. As much as I shouldn't look at it as this art form, I do, to a certain extent. Doesn't mean that it's right. But I do, because like I said before, part of my job, or a big part of my job, is to make beer look like art. And I take that very seriously, and I try very hard at that, and I I think that I do an okay job of that. And the fact that I have had people who work for big breweries come into my DMs and tell me that they like what I do means a whole lot to me. And do I think that I am underpaid? Yeah. Um, I I want to stay in this industry, and I too, like Tim, am scared about leaving the industry because it means working with people who I don't know. Because almost every job that I go to, I feel like even if I don't know anyone, I feel like I kind of know them because we're like kind of this same cut from the same cloth type of people. But also, there's a lot of people outside of this industry for the field that I work in now, the part that I work in now of marketing and content creation and design that I have no fucking experience in outside of beer. I don't have a degree. I have never worked for a firm. I've never done any of this stuff outside of this. And to them, I am not a good option compared to people fresh out of college who got a degree in fucking marketing or design or whatever. So that's scary to me as well, because if I wanted to continue doing what I do now outside of this industry, it's not very likely. So it means starting from the ground floor somewhere doing something else that I don't really know, and that it doesn't invigorate me, where I would much rather make a good living in an industry that I have been in for, I think, 12, 13 years now, and that have consistently tried to improve myself, learn, and I feel like I have earned it. I don't want to use that word deserved. Joel hates that fucking word, and he has rubbed off on me on that. I don't like using the word deserved. I
know. Well,
earned.
so here's what I would say, Mike. And I think maybe you and I feel this. We feel established.
Yeah.
Right? We feel home here, and we feel like we have planted our stake in the ground in this industry, right? So whether or not you feel
but
like
I do just genuinely like it. Like
I know, well, yeah. I'm just saying that, like, it doesn't have to be earned. It just has to be like, I'm fucking good at what I do. And by the way, other people also know this. And I have put my mark on this industry, and there's a reason I'm in it, right? There's a reason I am in this industry. I think that's a big thing. And for you, I think you feel the same way. There's a reason you are in this industry. That may be tangible or intangible or whatever, but there's a reason you're in this industry, and you feel that gutturally, right? And it's probably the same fucking stupid hubris that makes us feel like we can work for free. But the reality is you know, you have already left an indelible mark, and you have so much more marks to leave. And I completely agree. I get that. I mean, you're amazing at what you do. So yeah.
Yeah. It's just I think what I was just doing is doubling down on what you said, Tim, and adding my own personal touch in there. But it's just, yeah, like.
Did you just yes and me? Are we getting improv soup?
Sorry, but it's just, yeah. But I also want to fight for people who are not me too. I think that there are so many people who have earned earned better, and they should know better. That's why, like, I said all that about overtime. That's why I'm putting it out there. Is like if you can learn and you can improve your position where you're at, awesome. Like more power to you. But just to me, if I can help one person possibly get a better pay, like sweet. But I guess it all just starts there.
Kevin, do you have any final thoughts?
I think it's pretty notable that I've, excuse me, spoken a little bit less in this episode than I normally do. And part of that is the fact that I am in a position where I've expressed this to you guys before. I don't think I've ever paid anyone, and I can say because I'm the one that cuts the checks. I don't think I've ever paid anyone who's brewed beer for me what they're worth. I'm confident in saying that. What I've justified for myself, and I'm not telling you that you guys should justify this or think that I'm, good for doing this, is that
son of a bitch.
is that anyone who's ever come to me and said, I've got a better opportunity, my first response is, good for you. I want you to take it. Make your life better if you can.
Yeah.
That's not enough, by the way. It's never enough because everyone needs to live and be able to survive. So, for anybody, I mean, Ralph is my head brewer and he listens to this show. And, we talk on a regular basis. I hope he feels comfortable walking into my office and having a conversation with me. But I do want him and everybody else out there to know, from my perspective, someone whose lifeblood is the very people who are underpaid and undervalued, is that for any of you, if you can improve your life by finding someone who values you more, I do recommend that you do that. Even if it destroys Barrel of Monks Brewing, if it destroys our industry, it doesn't matter. You have to be the protagonist in your own life. It's not somebody else. And if you can find a different way, you should do that. You shouldn't feel beholden to anyone. Nobody who has ever worked for me owes me anything. We gave them a set pay for a job. And that's it. Once you do the job and we've paid you for it, that's transactional. You've done it. You owe me nothing. So if you can find a better way and do something else, man, I've hated every person that I've lost. I've always hoped that everybody would stay with us for the long run. But I know that's not realistic. So maybe I'm just speaking to one person. Maybe
You've
I'm speaking
hated
to a bunch
every
of people.
person who you have lost.
Well, I know. I caught
I know that
too.
that's not what
I
you
was
meant, but
gonna
the way it
ignore
could
that.
sound.
You
know what
don't
guys,
have to.
I know. I just wanted to.
You guys know what I mean. I've hated losing every person.
You've hated losing them.
You just hate people because you're just full of hate in your heart.
I'm furious.
No, Kevin. Before we close up here, I do want to say, I am very grateful that you've been open to this conversation. Obviously, Mike and I are on a very different side of this conversation than you are, right? Like, we are the payees and you are the payor, right? So I understand that this is not necessarily an easy conversation to have. And like you said, you've backed off, but you've also contributed really well and you've given me other things to think about as well. But I'm very grateful that you were willing to have, for all 7 listeners of this podcast. I know. Shout out to Kevin's dad.
Hi, Jim.
But no. The reality is like, I think these are things that we need to be talking about more in this industry, right? I think we need to be able to have more frank, honest, sincere, vulnerable is probably the biggest word, conversations, right? And you have shown a lot of vulnerability tonight, Kevin, and I'm very, very humbled that you have done that, because you know what you're going through, but you have taken a lot of time to listen to what I'm going through or what Mike is going through, what everyone else is going through. And I know that you have a soft heart for all of this, right? I know that like you're bound by things that you can't ever share. But the reality is that you allowed us to be honest, and I'm very grateful for that.
Well, it's very gracious, and all I will say is that this is a very special episode. If everyone remembers the 1980s of the United We Drink podcast, where we got real, and we talked about feelings, and we really appreciate each other's time. And by the way, a very special episode that's probably twice as long as most United We Drink episodes.
Yeah.
So I think
whatever.
I think
No,
I think
that's
it
up to
tracks.
Mike to cut down. My point isn't my
Mike cuts
whole role
nothing.
isn't to keep it short. It's to make it's just to give Mike a lot of fodder that he has to cut down. So it's up to him.
Oh, I'm not cutting shit down.
Mike cuts nothing. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I stopped cutting stuff a long time ago,
I
unless it's
also-
egregious.
I also just really like that you guys are on East Coast time, so I can just monopolize your time until you are so tired you don't know how to go to bed.
Oh, I'm so tired, and I know how to go to bed. It just doesn't always work.
Well, so then why don't we just get into last calls before you fall asleep?
Are we even gonna do last calls? I feel like we just did, but okay, I'm game.
I do have a last call, so
Okay.
Yeah.
let's
I
head
do
into
as well.
that. The point in the show where we give each other an unspecific amount of time to talk about whatever it is that we want, beverage related, unbeverage related. The only rules to this are that it is uninterrupted, unopposed, and unobjected. I'm going to start things off here by talking about fucking Bluey.
Jesus.
So
I know I'm not supposed to interrupt. Sorry, it was a visceral reaction. I apologize.
And by fucking Bluey, that is not meant as something derogatory. But over the last couple of weeks, Bluey has released 2 new episodes. First being, by the way, spoiler alert, if you are a family that watches Bluey and you, oh my God, Kevin is. So a couple weeks ago, they released an episode called Ghost Basket, which was a normal 7.5 minute episode that at the very end of the episode left you with a cliffhanger of a for sale sign out on the front lawn of the Healer family house, leading into their 20-something minute episode that they have been promoting for a long time called The Sign, that tore me the fuck apart. And I am tearing up thinking about it now. I watched this episode with my boys. My wife left to go on a trip, and I cried so fucking much at this episode that just had wonderful good feels, sad feels about a cartoon family of dogs that I have grown attached to over the last 2 years of my kids' lives. And like I through those 20 minutes, fought them back until the very fucking end where I just lost it. And texted my wife. I'm like, I am sobbing uncontrollably at Bluey right now. At the time of this recording, there's still 1 episode that is coming out. So I don't know what to expect from that. But holy crap, is this the best children's television show that has ever existed? My answer is yes. If you are a parent and you have watched The Sign and you cried as well, hit me up on social just so that we can console each other, because that was an amazing episode and of television, let alone children's television. Yeah. Tim?
Wow. Okay. So I was gonna kick this off and say, hey, first of all, thank you, gentlemen, for covering for me when I was out last week. To all of our listeners, I'm never gonna hide this from you. I have significant mental health, depression issues, and so I just couldn't do it for you guys, and I didn't want to be someone who was not involved in the conversation for you guys. So thank you. But that's not really what my last call is. My real last call has to do with from the last episode. Kevin had said his dad asked if we talked about the ballparks growing up, right? So I grew up in Iowa, and I don't know if you guys know this. There's no Major League Baseball in Iowa. But I can tell you that my dad. So my dad has always had like this big goal to reach a lot of ballparks, and I wish I made a lot of money so I could take him to around to all of them. But so I went to Old Bush and New Bush, right? I've been to Metrodome and Target Field. I've been to Kaufman pre and post rebuild. I have been to County Stadium and Miller Park / American Family Field or whatever the fuck they're calling it right now. I've been to Wrigley. I've been to Coors Field. I've been to a few. My very first game. When I asked my dad this, I asked him, I'm like, do you remember who the Brewers were playing at County Stadium when we went there? And he couldn't remember because, he's in his 70s and I'm in my 40s, so we also can't remember. I don't remember that one. I remember my first game at Kaufman. I don't remember who the Brewers are playing. That makes me angry, but I do remember. I have a very I literally remember the smell of County Stadium. Right? Like there's just something I don't know what it is about a little boy and a major league ballpark. We're just like you don't have to remember who was playing or what happened or whatever. The sights, the smells, the sounds, all of those come rushing back, right? And I don't hate American Family Field. I think the retractable roof is awesome. I think it's a lot of fun. My friend Jeff shit his pants in right field. But there's just something about one of those old ballparks from the 70s, right? So I never made it to Three Rivers. My dad made it to Three Rivers. I'm so mad I never made it to Three Rivers because that's one of those ballparks where I always wanted to go to. But I've been lucky enough in my life, like I said, Old Bush, New Bush, pre-rebuild Kaufman, this Kaufman, Metrodome, Target Field. I've been able to see some of those things, and it's been fun to see the evolution of baseball over those years. So, Kevin, as a nod to your dad, very grateful to have experienced Major League Baseball in a lot of parks. So I really hope he at least appreciates this nod.
I am sure that he does and will. So my turn for last call. So I don't know what it is, but Facebook has apparently decided that I need to know a lot about the debate between Michael Jordan and LeBron James being the greatest basketball player of all time. I don't know when this happened. I don't actually have a real Facebook account. I have a fake Facebook account that I use to follow Barrel of Monks to know what our social media is doing. And that Facebook account has been inundated with this battle, this debate about LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. Listen when I say this. I grew up in the Michael Jordan era. I was a Detroit Pistons fan. I hated Michael Jordan at a certain point of my youth. Then I learned to love Michael Jordan. I was the sports writer for my high school paper and wrote, long, articles about Michael Jordan and his last games. I was in that era. I had an entire wall eventually dedicated to Michael Jordan because I was a basketball fan. My father took me to see Michael Jordan, I believe, and I always forget this, but he scored like 56 or 57 points. Maybe it was 65. I can't remember. Against the, at that time, Washington Bullets in Chicago. My dad got tickets for me to see Jordan in Chicago. It was amazing. But can I tell you this? I don't give a flying fuck whether Michael Jordan is better than LeBron James. And if you care about this that passionately, you're really wasting a lot of time. You cannot compare eras. Sandy Koufax, Bob Gibson, Babe Ruth. We're talking about baseball. You'll never know what it would be like if they played in the same eras because you can't know. That's the way time works. But one of the things that really sticks in my craw is not who's better. There seems to be this undercurrent that Michael Jordan was like a shitty basketball player. I'm seeing these memes about like, well, if this player did this, it's nothing. But if Michael Jordan did this, it would be like on a poster somewhere. Can we all just agree that like the great players can be like revered and we can appreciate what they did in their time and we don't have to compare them and contrast them to the players of today? How much time do we really have to be having this debate? It's asinine. It is mind-boggling to me. When I was growing up, I remember reading about George Mikan. George Mikan, the Mikan drill. That's I grew up playing basketball. I knew in 1994 that George Mikan would not be a competent player in the NBA if he was born and played in this time. Because reasons, many reasons. I know that the arrow goes forth and people are bigger, stronger, more athletic. But I also knew that Wilt Chamberlain probably could have played in 1985. And I know that Magic Johnson would have been a pretty goddamn good basketball player in 2005. And I'm fairly certain that Michael fucking Jordan would have been a pretty good basketball player while he playing in 2023 and 2024. Let's all just agree on that, and everyone else can just go about their business with their GOAT of choice. Thank you.
I prefer my goat curried.
Jesus Christ.
And that's not how we want to end.
Kevin, you want to plug anything?
No, please, no.
Tim?
Oh God, no. I mostly, if you can find Kevin's alts online, I mostly just want to find those. So if you guys can find all of Kevin's alts,
they took me a long time to find them.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So I want to plug all of our listeners finding Kevin's alts online so I can find them.
It's only Facebook and Instagram, just so you know. Unless
Well,
he has
as-
a burner Twitter account that
I was gonna
don't
say,
know
as
about.
far as you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. He's still like rocking down that Friendster. He's got it. Yeah.
I'm MySpacing it up.
Buddy, Kevin liked one of my Instagram posts many years ago. It was for a post that I made about my 1-year anniversary of dating my now wife, Allie. The only post he's ever liked of mine. It's funny that I can point that out.
It's the only post I think I've ever liked, period. And doesn't it mean more because of that, Mike?
You know what? Just to keep with the norms, I'm not going to plug anything either, except for our show, which you can follow us on all of our social. We're at United We Drink on Twitter and Blue Sky. My dog is barking. Thanks, fucking Nugget. We're United We Drink Pod on Instagram and Threads. We're on Facebook. We're on all of the podcast services that I know about. Maybe not that you do, but you know what? That's just life. If you want to support the show, check out our website, unitedwedrink.com. We have a Brands We Love page. If you click on some of those links and buy something through there, we get a little kickback on that. Also have a store, unitedwedrink.com/store with shirts, buttons, stickers, and totes and all of that fun stuff. Other than that, We'll be back in a couple weeks with another new episode. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and cheers.
Cheers.